Welcome, everybody. I'm Sunil Naphray, Executive Coach in Life, Health and Business. It's a great pleasure to be hosting another podcast in our Master the Mind series. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our resident guest, Mustafa Sasmaz. Hello there, Mustafa. How are you today?
Hi, Sunil. Thank you. Not bad. Good. Yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a great pleasure. Thank you. In the pre-talk before the podcast, you gave me a wonderful update on how things are going your end. So well done there to you. And hoping that as soon as Mustafa, when he's a little less busy, I know he's an extremely busy man, but he said that he will at some point be leading some content on philosophy and sharing some philosophical ideas and thoughts about life, about everything, about the whole universe. So I'm really looking forward to that. And obviously we will be keeping our eyes peeled for that marvelous content in the near future. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue leading the sessions. And today's podcast is going to be around using neuro-linguistic programming to actually program your subconscious mind. Now, we've done a few podcasts on the subconscious mind in terms of what is it, the nature of it, how we can try to use it. But in this particular podcast, we're going to be looking at specifically how neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, can actually help. Now, for this purpose, I'm going to be screen sharing. Just bear with me. There we go. Okay, so I've made some slides. So communicating with your subconscious using NLP, okay? Because we have always maintained on this podcast series that the subconscious mind is a significant part of our overall brain power. It's probably, some may argue 85% of our mind is subconscious, some may say 90, 95%, but whichever way you look at it, it is significant. And if it is that significant, then are we able to use certain techniques to be able to work with our subconscious mind so we can do what we want to do, so we can get the best out of life and we can, achieve whatever we want to achieve, whether it's, to have good health, to be, to have good emotional well-being, to be happy and successful in relationships, to be successful in your work or your career, or to maintain a fabulous business, or it may be some kind of a project or an ambition like parachuting, or running some kind of a charity event, something that you've always had your heart on. Okay, so all of this is possible, but you have to go through the subconscious mind. It's the subconscious mind that is going to allow you to form those ideas, which will then eventually become will eventually bear fruit, and then go through your conscious mind and then translate itself into action. So we're going to be looking at some content here and some ideas and techniques on how you can use NLP to communicate with your subconscious mind. Okay, so we said before that around 95% of your life is controlled by your subconscious mind. As a result, most of the things that you do occur automatically without even thinking about it. So imagine if you're driving a car, and this happens to me all the time. Sometimes I wonder, oh my God, how come I arrived in the centre of Wolverhampton, which is 2 miles from my house, without even consciously driving? So that's something there in my subconscious mind that has been pre-learned from before, which is allowing me to do what I'm doing. So many a time I've been able to drive, but also plan a lesson for a class. So that's where your subconscious mind plays a very, very strong role. Okay, so it's almost like you're running on autopilot when this tends to happen. There may well be other instances where you are consciously doing something, or you're consciously in a place, but subconsciously you're doing something else. Okay, that can be very helpful, but it can also be a hindrance, particularly if you're meant to be, say, for example, you're focusing on your job at work, but then you're thinking about planning your next holiday and things like that. So that might not always work to one's particular advantage. But, you know, with well-practiced tasks like driving, they largely occur automatically under the control of the subconscious mind. And that's a key point here, because if we want to do something, if we want to be someone, then it requires practice, it requires effort. And if we do it enough times, then it will then go through our subconscious mind, and then it will be lodged in our unconscious mind that will drive the behavior, okay? So for me, it's my unconscious mind that is driving the car when I'm thinking of other things, okay? And so it's really important that if you are wanting to do something, then you have to be able to access your subconscious mind and be able to practice. And this is where NLP is important, because neuro-linguistic programming, which is a model of excellence in terms of using language to connect with your thoughts and behavior, this can be absolutely key for you to do consciously if you want to be able to use your subconscious mind, okay? So it can be advantageous because it means that you are then free to devote your attention to other tasks, like speaking on your cell phone while driving your car. However, doing things automatically isn't always a good thing, like I said before, okay? Because sometimes you can also have subconscious bad habits as well, okay? Because 95% of the things that you do in a given day are done automatically and under subconscious control. And this means that you are only conscious in control of around 5%. The times when you're consciously in control are the times when you're exposed to something which you may not have been exposed to before. So that's something that you've got to be very, very mindful of, especially where this part of the mind is doing all the work. So most people think of as consciousness only occurs for a fraction of a given day. Sometimes our minds are elsewhere, and that's your subconscious at work. This is why people tend to feel very tired when they visit somewhere new, such as going on a vacation. As in a new environment, the conscious brain must take the lead until routines are developed that allow the subconscious mind to regain control again. Because when you are in a new place, then your subconscious mind is trying to, your conscious mind is trying to interpret all the new information and the new things. And you've probably heard of the phrase, find your bearings. It takes time to find your bearings. And now you're allowing the subconscious mind to do that for you, okay? So absolutely. And bad habits highlight the danger of allowing the subconscious to automatically control our behavior. This is important because as well as having good habits, also bad habits can be done automatically. Now, for example, some people who feel that they should not be smoking because they know it's bad for their health, but they will somehow, in a stressful situation, will reach for the cigarette, or they will reach for the glass of whiskey, or they will reach for something, you know, very unhealthy to eat, because that's their subconscious mind giving them the signal to do this, because this is what you've always done. It's always been historical, and this is what you'll do. But to try to break that will take work. And this is where NLP can help out. And if you're not careful, those bad habits can be very self-destructive, okay? Because you could well go down a slippery path, which then may lead to quite vicious outcomes and circumstances like very poor health or even one's death, okay? So it's really important that we keep a grip of these habits, okay? And be mindful about them. So because they're automatic, this can actually cause lots of issues, okay? Now, NLP, how can this be of any help? So everyone has some kind of bad habit they would like to change or get rid of. In order to do this, however, you need to get in touch with your subconscious mind and communicate it. Now, one thing I want to say is for people listening to this podcast, it's so important for you to understand that the subconscious mind actually exists. It's there. So if you're thinking, my mind is my mind, that's fine, yes. But there's a significant part that has the wisdom, that allows you to create, and it's your servant. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can help you to achieve and do whatever you want it to do, okay? but you must be able to communicate with it for that to become a reality, okay? So it's really important to determine your dominant thought process. Have you ever wondered how you actually determine your thoughts? How does that actually happen, okay? Now, with neurolinguistic programming, there are particular models which actually help you to understand how you perceive the information you receive from the world that goes through to your conscious mind. And these models are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, okay, or VAC. Some people liken these to learning styles, but there are also ways of how you process the world, okay? In NLP speak, they're called your PRS, your preferred representational system. So if for some people to believe something, they have to see it, that's visual, or they have to hear it first, that's auditory. For other people, they have to feel it, they have to be tactile about it, they've got to handle it physically for them to be able to recognize it, okay? So have a think about what kind of model you currently use to interpret the world that is around you. Is it visual, auditory, kinesthetic? For me personally, I think in my younger days, I think I was more kinesthetic, but now, as I'm now 51 and moving in the second stage of my life, I'm more visual and auditory now. Okay, so moving on there. Now, visual people respond best to images, and they make sense of words by recalling or constructing them in their mind. So if that's you, you're a visual person. So if you want to change something in your life, you got to try and visualize it. Try and visualize that perfect house or that perfect relationship, or visualize a conversation, a difficult conversation you're going to have with your manager or with your partner, okay? And that's what visual people do to try to communicate with their subconscious. So things like, I see, looks good, I can see the light, I can see what you mean. These are things that people will tend to use when they're trying to perceive their world around us. And they will try to describe things in great detail, like painting a mental picture. People who can paint mental pictures, they're visual people, okay? And also, people who are visual in terms of relationships will tend to be attracted by how they look, okay? And that's the important thing, because if you are attracted to visual things, visual literacy, then that's how you learn and that's how you interpret things, okay? Now, with auditory, they respond best to sounds. So they make their decisions based on what they hear. So for me personally, if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm hearing someone reviewing a book, that's it. I'll buy it. I'll just go on Amazon and find it. And I will, be reliant on what I'm listening to be able to make a decision. Okay. And that may be that may well be you. When you listen to your partner, you listen to your bank manager, you listen to a friend or a colleague, and that could then prompt you into action, because if that's the case, then you are an auditory person. So phrases like, that sounds great, I hear you loud and clear, then basically with that, that's actually something that is going to be very commonly used by what we call an auditory person, okay? Now, with those things like, you'll be quite attracted to people in terms of their voice, their tone of voice, how they speak, their pitch, their tonality. So those are particular characteristics of auditory people. Now, what about kinesthetic? Now, they respond best to feelings, okay? So they are feeling people. They tend to react through a feeling mode. They get a gut emotional feeling inside them. They may feel hot and cold within just a few minutes. They can be quite sensitive as well. And things like, that really hurt me. I can really feel your pain. I feel great. These are things that a kinesthetic person would actually say. They're also attracted to how people make them feel, because they're into feeling emotionally and physically as well, okay? Now, communicating with your subconscious, most people are able to identify, now really, if you really want to communicate with your subconscious mind, you need to identify which is your dominant PRS, which is your dominant NLP model. Is it visual? Is it auditory or kinesthetic? Now, once we finish this podcast, then I will be asking this question to my guest, Mustafa, as to which one he believes is his dominant one in terms, and it may well be different for different situations, okay? That might be the case for you. You may feel that the visual is going to be best for your personal relationship, but maybe it's the kinesthetic that's going to be best for your friendships, okay? Or maybe the auditory for your business relationships. So you can switch it whichever way you want. Whichever route you choose, it's got to be about making the subconscious mind works for you, okay? And it could well be that all three models could be used interchangeably depending on the situation, or maybe the one. It may also be that when you evaluate your life, and you may think, oh my God, I just wish I wasn't visual all the time. I wish I could feel more emotion. I wish I could listen more actively, or with more intent, or with more purpose. And these are questions you need to ask yourself in terms of, are you using the best NLP model to communicate directly with your subconscious for you to make the changes that you want to make, okay? And so that's really, really important for you to do, because the purpose of this communication is to align your emotions and behaviors to become more supportive of the behavior that you're trying to change. It's about reaching an alignment. So just be clear about which is your dominant NLP model, and how you need to calibrate the model with the way you want to be. So for example, I want to be a successful businessman. Well, if you're not listening to your clients and you're not meeting their needs and they don't want to work with you, then that must be a massive red flag. Okay, I'm just giving you an example there. So there are 5 key things that you need to be focusing on now in order to use NLP to communicate with your subconscious. You've got to ask yourself, what do I want to change? Okay, that's so important. Being clear, being absolutely clear what you want to change. I want to lose weight. I want to give up smoking. I want to be exponentially earning 10 times more income from my business. Be clear. What is the change? Okay? And that's so important. The next one is you need to receive a subconscious signal. Most of our habitual behaviors and thoughts are controlled at a subconscious level. The next step is to communicate with your subconscious your intention to achieve your goal. Now, as well as being an NLP practitioner, I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. And what we do in hypnotherapy is we try to use affirmations in a semi-conscious state to be able to mold the subconscious mind, okay? But we're talking about NLP here. You've got to start thinking of how you can now start to, with maybe self-talk or reflection, to be able to get your subconscious mind to do the work for you. For me personally, if I'm wanting my subconscious mind to do something, for me what works is I be still, I like to meditate, I like to get in the zone, and then I like to then start to say, right, come on now, what ideas do you have, Sunil? And I'll be getting my notebook or my computer, my MacBook, and I'll be typing out. I'll be downloading from my subconscious to my conscious mind what I need to be looking at, okay? And I need to be in a state of calm and serenity for me to do that, okay? That is the best state for me to do any kind of creative work, because change requires creation, and creation requires stillness for your subconscious mind to be fully alert and maximized, okay? And yes, like I said here, for me, being in a meditative state, I always like to listen to meditation music behind, in the background, so I can then do the work that I need to do. For example, this week, I spent 2 days developing an online course in stress management. Well, I had to revamp my old one, but I still had to do 2 days of solid work. And I made sure I had some really nice harmonic, rhythmic tone instead of music I was playing in the background, so my subconscious mind can be fully opened up. But that's also the alpha state. We will do another podcast on alpha and theta waves, because these are really important to understand to make your subconscious mind work. So the subconscious is the most receptive to reprogramming when you are relaxed. That's so important. That works for me. Be still, be relaxed, have my meditation music on, and I can create anything, okay? And the next few weeks, I was telling Mustafa in the pre-talk for the podcast that I will be producing a new personal transformation course, an online course, where I know the only way I can do that the next 2 weeks is just be still and be relaxed, have my meditation music on, and then I can then produce the goods and hopefully produce some magic for my clients. So be clear. So be relaxed, okay? You cannot do creative work when you doing 1,000 things all together. Even losing weight and getting fit, you've got to think about it. You've got to think in your mind visually what kind of a body shape you want, what kind of a fitness level, what kind of a BMI, your BMI, I think it's BMI rating that you want, okay? That's so important. I mean, for me, in January, I was 2.5, nearly 3 stones heavier. And I said, no, I want to change my body. I want to change the way I eat and I exercise. So I've been on a plan, but in January, I visualized how I was going to look in July. And I think I'm almost there, but I'm still work in progress. But I used the visual model, the NLP model, to get this result that I've got now, okay? So important. And in terms of visual, it's so important to visualize in your mind what you want. If you want to get a new house, put it in your subconscious mind. Think about it now. If you want to start a business, how is that business going to represent itself? Is it going to be a shop? Is it going to be a building? Is it going to be online? Okay. Now, again, my friend Mustafa knows that when I first met him in September in a conference in London, which is how we started to network with each other, I could visualize my online, but it wasn't in existence. And it's been wonderful for Mustafa to see how my online business has developed into reality. But I had to visualize it first. And again, listening during that conference, listening to Mustafa's thoughts and ideas and responses to my ideas, listening to the main speaker's ideas. I had to engage my auditory, okay? My auditory model. So I had to use that. I had to feel it. I had to put myself in a position. God, what would it feel like to have my online business, to have an online presence? And I tell you this now, it feels fantastic because I am showing up to the world. I'm showing myself who I am, my values, and what I represent in myself to the whole world. And I can do that through social media and through my website. Okay. 9 months ago, I didn't have a website. I had no website. I had no Instagram. I had no LinkedIn. I had no YouTube channel. But now I have a fully comprehensive website with a multitude of landing pages. I have online products that I'm selling. I have my first ebook. I have now nearly 75 videos on my YouTube channel. I do 4 regular podcast series. And that never happened 9 months ago, but I imagined it. My subconscious mind imagined everything, okay? So it's really important that as well as using these models, that you also, have some caution about it as well, because these are only one route plan to help with your subconscious. There are other ways as well, but this is just the one route, okay? Like I mentioned, you can have hypnotherapy. That can also be very powerful as well to change your habits, to change, for you to work through your ambitions, okay? But it's so important that you also be mindful that as well as trying to get the primary gains, you also be planning ahead and having secondary gains as well, because you might not be able to achieve what you set out to achieve. but at least you value the journey and you also learn other things. So if you haven't reached your ideal weight, you've at least lost weight. And that's amazing that you've been able to improve your health as a result. So make sure you enjoy all the gains, as well as the primary one, the secondary gains as well, because you also need to feed your soul and spirit that you are achieving. And you also need to feed your mindset that it's a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset says you either fail or succeed. No, growth mindset means you honor the journey. You praise yourself wisely. See effort as a path to mastery. Okay, and that's so important. So it's really important that that also you also work with your ego, because your ego is there to protect you, and your ego there may stop you from achieving your primary goal. So work with your ego. Listen to what your ego is telling you, okay? And that's so important. Now, it's so important to practice new behaviors, okay? So you've probably heard of the term fake it until you make it, because I'm not telling you to fake anything, but you have to try. If you don't feel that you are that successful businessman, how are you going to become that businessman? If you don't feel now you can become a good friend or a good partner, if you don't feel it now, how are you going to be able to become that person? You've got to feel it and visualize it. And then if you can do that, your subconscious mind is your servant. It will show you the way if you work with it. So start creating those new behaviors, okay? Start to, from your thoughts, get that momentum going, turn the momentum into action, and get moving, okay? It's so important. Also, on this journey, you identify the conflict. Again, your ego is going to be fighting against your intuitive voice. It's going to say, no, you can't do this. Listen to your ego. Your ego is there to protect you. It's also there to be a check for you. And that's a really good thing, okay? Because it will then suddenly tell you, be careful, just be mindful, be careful. So you should never ignore what your ego is telling you as well. But these are 5 steps here that are going to actually help you to get into a kind of a state. And also, I just want to finish off by just saying, how can you do this very quickly? Now, I'm an English teacher as well as being an executive coach. And I think simple things like sentence completion can really help you to really get your ideas down and start to work with your subconscious mind, okay? Now, anything linguistic is also part of NLP. Now, what I would be doing with clients is saying, okay, you want to be able to run the marathon, okay? You've never done running before, but by next year, say in London, by that time, hopefully it'll be running. It'll be all up and running by next year in 2021. You want to be able to do that. Okay, fine. Then let's find a way to do it. Okay. And for that person, living consciously is also about having that ambition. Okay. Living your ambition, but being conscious about it. So I would say, write a sentence using the sentence stem, living consciously means. And what does it actually mean for you? Okay. Now, some answers could be being in the present, remembering the things I have got to do today, thinking about the consequences of my actions, thinking about my choices and decisions before I put them into action, noticing how I'm affected by the things I say or do, noticing how others are affected by what I do. Okay, so that could be someone's own particular goal. Okay, and the more they can, well, if they write these down and they read it, the more they're going to be now trying to train their subconscious mind. Okay. Now, if you've never done any conscious work with your subconscious mind, then try using this as a very simple technique. Obviously, I've gone through 5 different stages that you can follow. Plus, in this podcast, I've clearly gone through how each of the NLP models, the PRSs, the preferred representational systems of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, how they can be helpful. But what you must do now is say, right, living consciously means what for me, okay? Then start to write down what you want your subconscious mind to do for you. Remember, it's your servant, okay? It's there to serve you. So start writing down statements like, smart targets, like in 6 months' time, I want to fit into a size 8 dress, and before my son's wedding or something, you know, in 6 months' time, or in 3 months' time, I want to be able to work with 10 coaching clients, all high premium clients, okay? Or it may well be that I want to set up, I want to have an online presence and have my own website and start to earn money from online courses, okay? I want to develop 3 courses. Or it may well be I want to be able to start a counseling course, or I want to be able to help my son get a job. Whatever it might be, your subconscious mind can help you to get there, okay? I want to pay my mortgage off. I want to move house. These are big, big things, but your subconscious mind can help you along your journey, okay? So think visual, kinesthetic, auditory. Think about those 5 steps and think about using writing, like sentence completion, to try to help you to communicate with your subconscious mind using NLP. So now we've got 5 minutes left before we have to complete the podcast. So now, Mustafa, I'm now going to ask for your feedback on that content. Any thoughts, the last 5 minutes that come to mind?
Yes, Sunil, brilliant presentation, very concise, and I can see a lot of useful points you made for the audience to pick up. But I'd like to ask you a question on behalf of the people listening to you. So if I want to use NLP model, what do I do? Now, I am thinking of 6 months ahead. Let's say in 6 months' time, I want to be able to make 5% money ready for my mortgage.
Yeah.
This 5% obviously can be 10,000, 5,000, or 35,000. So in order for me to achieve that, NLP program you suggest, as I don't know nothing about it, what should I do? First, I am standing, I'm thinking, contemplating, and you please just recap that. You have explained all that, but I'd like the audience to get this points one more time.
So what was the actual scenario? To put 5% towards the deposit for the house?
Yes.
Okay, right, all right. So therefore, the first thing is the main goal is to, as you said, is to raise those funds. Now, how I would use NLP from a visual point of view is I will be now visualizing in my mind, how much money does that equate to? Okay. So for example, it could be, what would that be? Would that be, I don't know, £10,000? Would it be?
It's a bit more than that. Let's say 15 to be realistic. And,
right, okay. So it's so important for you now to put in your mind that I need 15 grand, £15,000. And it's almost like you can then see, like if I was going to use my visual, you're closing your eyes, you can then see a house, but also an equal sign which says 15,000, which means that for you to get that house, you need 15,000. Now, when you visualize it, you can then start thinking, okay, how am I going to be able to get that 15,000? Let me look visual. Let me have a look at my finances. Have I got any money in the bank? Do I have to earn that money? Do I have to borrow that money? So this is where people now have to visualize, okay, I have to go in that savings account. I have to speak to my bank manager. I have to speak to my friend. So to start visualizing the people, the key people who they need to engage in to try to access, who are going to be like different taps, maybe it might be visualizing the bank manager releasing a tap for you to have 5,000, or maybe a, you know, your boyfriend can give you a £5,000 loan or whatever it is. So start visualizing. Okay, now in terms of auditory, it may well be that you might want to hear someone saying to you, Mustafa, here's 15,000. Mustafa, here is a job that will earn you 5,000. Mustafa, here is a loan for 5,000. So auditory people, that they want to hear it. For them to believe it, they want to hear it. When they hear it, it'll then become into reality. From a kinesthetic point of view, you want to be able to imagine that you're going to be holding the keys. You're going to be imagining that you're holding the keys to that property. And then also, well, as holding them, you're going to imagine how it feels. Oh my God, it feels fantastic. It feels brilliant. My first home. But you've also got to be able to say, before I can have that, before I can hold those keys, then I need to now try and get that 15 grand. How am I going to do it? Also, from an NLP point of view, it's so important to use the language to make it a reality. You've got to be able to write down. So whichever NLP model you've used, start writing down, how am I going to be able to generate 15,000? So write down, I will be able to generate 15,000 by how? Write it down. Who are you going to speak to? Where's the money going to come from? So write it down. And then that becomes your action plan. And if you are a visual person, you will see it every morning on the fridge, okay? If you are auditory, record on your phone, Sunil, this is how you're going to be able to get your 15,000, okay? So those are some particular hacks and strategies that you can apply the NLP model in that particular situation. Does that make sense, Mustafa?
Yes, thank you. And by doing so, you'll be into habit of repeating it. Therefore, you are sort of automating your NLP process in your mind.
Yes, absolutely. And if you really want to get into your conscious mind properly, you got to practice it. You know, like I mentioned in the example, how I automatically know how to drive without consciously driving. And it's almost like you're going to be wanting to keep practicing, keep doing everything that you need to do to get that 15,000. You keep having that vision, okay? When I evaluate the big goals that I've achieved in my life, the way I've done that is because I've had a vision and then I've had to do the work. I've had to find the energy and the momentum and do it step by step by step. But I've also been aware of conflicts and barriers and tried to look at other things. But I've always kept my eye on the prize. I've always said, the house. I want to have a mortgage-free house. I want to have this relationship, or I want my friendship to be like this, blah, blah, blah. Always visualize it and constantly work. It's about doing the work. Now my subconscious mind, to be honest with you, I don't have to worry about doing this 40 video personal transformation course. It's written. I've just got to sit down and just do the work. But my unconscious mind is going to do all the work because I've loaded it up so many times now. So it'll just happen. So yes, constant reflection, constant practice and review is definitely the way forward, because then your subconscious mind with your servant, it'll do it for you.
Thank you.
But if we are complacent and lazy and we don't keep the eye on the prize, then it's gone. Then there is no energy to do the work. You've got to keep focusing on it and keep looking at your affirmation notes as well.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you. I think that is now bringing us now towards the end of the podcast. Thank you for those insightful questions, Mustafa. And thank you, everybody, for watching this particular podcast on how you can communicate with your subconscious mind using NLP. If you would like to get in touch with Mustafa, if you have any questions or queries that you'd like to ask him, you will note his LinkedIn profile details in the description box below. If you would like to get in touch with myself, if you're interested in maybe a 1-hour free coaching session or a consultation, then you will note there is a Calendly online diary link. If you click onto that, you'll receive a Zoom link, which will be aligned to my diary, and then we can then start talking and then maybe configuring a possible coaching program for you if that's what you're looking for. But in the meantime, a big thank you to Mustafa once again. Thank you so much for your time, Mustafa. And the rest of you, I look forward to seeing you for the next podcast. Take care and stay well.